There's a war happening inside your mind, and you've been losing it quietly. Every night when the world goes silent, your thoughts get louder, rewinding old conversations, overanalyzing texts, imagining what you should have said, what she really meant, and what you could have done differently. You lie there replaying the same scenes again and again, hoping this time, maybe, you'll feel peace. But the truth is, you never do. Because overthinking doesn't solve the problem. It is the problem. Here's the hard truth no one tells you. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence. It's a symptom of fear. Fear of being hurt again, fear of being rejected, fear of making the wrong move. You think you're being cautious, but what you're really doing is building a mental prison where every door leads to the same place, nowhere. You're trying to control what's uncontrollable. You're trying to predict emotions, intentions, outcomes, and it's exhausting you from the inside out. The reason you can't stop overthinking isn't because you care too much. It's because you've made your peace dependent on certainty, and life doesn't give that. You want guarantees, you want answers before action. But mastery begins when you accept that clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from deciding. Think about it. How many moments have you ruined not because they went wrong, but because you couldn't stop replaying them? How many women have lost interest because you seemed uncertain, hesitant, trapped in your own head? Overthinking kills attraction faster than rejection. Why? Because confidence is about energy, and overthinking drains it. You can't lead, can't connect, can't inspire when you're tangled in self-doubt. But here's the secret. Every man who masters his mind learns one thing. Thinking less doesn't make you careless. It makes you powerful, because the strongest energy in any room is the one that moves without hesitation. When you stop letting your thoughts bully your instincts, when you stop trying to predict every outcome and just act, you'll feel something you haven't felt in years. Control. Real control. Overthinking begins as self-protection but ends as self-sabotage. You convince yourself you're preparing for the worst, when in reality you're just reliving pain that hasn't even happened. It's your mind trying to protect your heart, but in doing so, it's killing your peace. The truth is, most men who overthink aren't weak, they're wounded. Somewhere in your past, someone made you feel like a mistake. Maybe she left without explanation. Maybe you opened up once and got mocked for it. Maybe your kindness was mistaken for weakness. So now your brain replays every scenario to avoid ever feeling that helpless again. But here's what no one tells you. You cannot think your way out of emotional pain. You can only feel your way through it. Every time you sit in silence, analyzing what you should have done, you're trying to rewrite a memory that's already finished. That's why it feels endless. You can't solve what doesn't exist anymore. The past doesn't need more thinking. It needs acceptance. The moment you truly accept something, your brain stops trying to fix it. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's reclaiming your energy from a situation that's already over. You stop fighting for closure from people who benefit from your confusion. You stop chasing answers from women who already showed you who they are. You stop looking for peace in places that broke you. That's how you win, by refusing to stay where you lost yourself. You see, overthinking gives you the illusion of control, but real control is learning to let go. It's understanding that not every unanswered message deserves your mental space. Not every cold response is an attack on your worth. Sometimes silence isn't rejection, it's redirection. And here's something most men never realize. The same energy you waste overthinking, if redirected, becomes your most magnetic force. Because nothing attracts like calm. Nothing builds respect faster than a man who can stand still in uncertainty and not lose his composure. That's not apathy. That's power. That's emotional mastery. Once you understand that overthinking is a defense mechanism, not your identity, you'll start to separate your thoughts from who you are. You'll stop asking, what if? And start saying, even if. That's the moment you stop surviving and start leading. There's a reason overthinkers always feel exhausted, even when nothing's happening. Your brain is running simulations like a machine that never shuts off. You think you're solving problems, but what you're really doing is imagining pain before it even arrives. You're trying to protect yourself from emotional impact by living it early. And that's the cruel paradox. You suffer twice, once in your mind, once in reality. But here's the deeper truth. Overthinking is not about what's happening out there. It's about what's missing in here. When a man lacks purpose, his mind becomes a battlefield. Idle energy turns into anxiety. Repressed emotions turn into analysis. You start obsessing over why she said this, what she meant, why she hasn't called, because your energy has nowhere meaningful to go. Your focus becomes chaos, not creation. The man who wakes up with purpose doesn't have time to spiral into what-ifs. His energy is occupied by direction, not doubt. He's not scrolling through her old messages. He's building his next move. That's not because he's heartless. It's because he's mastered the law of focus. And that law is simple. What you feed grows. If you feed your fears, they dominate your thoughts. But if you feed your vision, your fears starve. Let's be honest. Most overthinking comes from attachment. You don't want to lose control of something that gives you meaning. That's why when she pulls away, your mind panics. It's not about her. It's about the version of yourself you felt when she wanted you. But when your identity depends on someone's attention, your peace will always be rented, never owned. You must learn to withdraw your emotional investment from uncertainty. Stop trying to decode mixed signals. Start observing patterns. A woman who's truly interested won't leave you guessing. A person who respects your energy won't play with your mind. Once you understand that, overthinking becomes unnecessary because you're no longer waiting for external validation to feel safe. True calm comes when you realize this. Not everything that hurts deserves a reaction. Not everything confusing deserves closure. Sometimes, peace comes when you stop needing an explanation. You stop thinking about what it could be and start trusting what it is. That's emotional evolution, the moment you stop chasing answers and start commanding your focus. There's something magnetic about a man who doesn't overthink, and it's not arrogance, it's certainty. You can feel it when he walks into a room. He's calm, deliberate, and unbothered by the noise around him. Women notice it instantly because it's rare. In a world full of men constantly questioning themselves, the one who moves with quiet confidence stands out without even trying. But that level of calm doesn't come from pretending. It comes from understanding himself so deeply that no one else's behavior can shake his foundation. When you stop overthinking, you stop reacting, you start observing. You see patterns instead of chaos. You learn to decode emotion instead of being controlled by it. You stop needing every situation to end in your favor because you finally trust that whatever happens, you'll handle it. That's the essence of masculine composure, not control over others, but control over yourself. You see, emotional discipline is not coldness, it's clarity. It's the ability to feel everything and still decide rationally. Most men crumble under uncertainty because they never learned to sit with discomfort. The mind that's used to chaos seeks chaos. So, when peace finally arrives, they don't trust it. But once you train yourself to stay still in moments of doubt, something incredible happens. Your mind stops screaming. You become the calm inside the storm. Women are drawn to that energy, not because of mystery, but because it signals safety. A man who doesn't overreact, who doesn't chase, who doesn't crumble when things shift, communicates one thing louder than words. I trust myself. And when you trust yourself, you stop needing reassurance. You stop needing to prove your worth. You stop measuring your value through someone else's attention. That's when your presence becomes addictive. Overthinking keeps you in a loop of fear. Mastery frees you into action. The less you chase clarity from others, the more clear you become. You stop saying, "What does she want?" and start asking, "What do I want?" That's the turning point, when you realize the power was never in getting the answer, it was in becoming it. Because the moment you stop overanalyzing what others think, you become untouchable. You don't shrink for attention. You don't over-explain for approval. You simply move, and the world adjusts around you. You must learn to withdraw your emotional investment from uncertainty. Stop trying to decode mixed signals. Start observing patterns. A woman who's truly interested won't leave you guessing. A person who respects your energy won't play with your mind. Once you understand that, overthinking becomes unnecessary because you're no longer waiting for external validation to feel safe. True calm comes when you realize this. Not everything that hurts deserves a reaction. Not everything confusing deserves closure. Sometimes peace comes when you stop needing an explanation. You stop thinking about what it could be and start trusting what it is. That's emotional evolution, the moment you stop chasing answers and start commanding your focus. The real reason you overthink is because you've forgotten your own strength. You've spent so much time doubting your instincts that you no longer trust your own judgment. But here's the truth most men never hear. Your intuition is not broken, it's buried. Buried under years of second-guessing, heartbreak, rejection, and the noise of trying to please everyone but yourself. You learn to analyze everything because somewhere along the line, someone made you feel like your natural instinct wasn't enough. But every great man you've ever admired, the ones who lead, who command respect, who never seem shaken, they all have one thing in common. They trust their inner compass. They make decisions, they commit, and they live with the outcome. That's not recklessness, that's mastery. They don't need to overthink because they've learned something powerful. Clarity is born in movement. You can't think your way into confidence. You build it through action. You get it by choosing, failing, adjusting, and choosing again. Every time you act instead of hesitate, you tell your brain, I can handle life. Every time you let go of needing a perfect outcome, your mind starts to relax. And slowly, the noise fades, because your nervous system finally trusts you to lead. That's why silence is so powerful. When you stop reacting to every impulse, every thought, every worry, you start training your mind to obey you instead of control you. You become intentional. You learn that stillness is not weakness, it's dominance. Because only a man who's grounded can walk away from confusion without needing to prove anything. Here's the paradox. When you stop chasing peace, you find it. When you stop demanding control, you feel it. Because control doesn't come from predicting every possibility. It comes from mastering your response to whatever happens. You'll still have doubts. You'll still have moments of fear. But instead of spiraling, you'll smile because you'll finally understand that thoughts are just weather and you are the sky. So the next time your mind starts racing, don't fight it. Observe it. Breathe. Let the storm pass through without trying to stop the rain. That's how a man transforms, not by silencing his thoughts, but by no longer believing everything they say. At some point, you'll wake up and realize peace was never out there. It was never hidden in her approval, never waiting inside a text message, never earned through someone finally choosing you. It was always within you, covered by layers of noise, fear, and self-doubt. The journey was never about controlling your thoughts. It was about remembering who you are beneath them. Once you master your mind, something magical happens. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop explaining and start embodying. You stop waiting for permission to move forward and simply move. Because the overthinker in you dies the moment you realize that uncertainty isn't your enemy. It's the arena where strength is built. Every unanswered question, every quiet night, every confusing moment you've survived has been shaping you into a man who no longer breaks under pressure, but rises through it. When you let go of the need to understand everything, life starts working for you, not against you. You begin to notice that the moments you used to fear, silence, distance, rejection, are now your allies, because they reveal who's meant to stay and what's meant to end. You don't beg for clarity anymore. You watch people's patterns and let them tell you the truth without a single word. That's the art of inner dominance, the mastery of response over reaction.